Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. With me this morning are my brothers, Honorable Kobe, someone representing Guyak Shelling Federal Constituency in Adamawa State, and Honorable Aliyu Mustafa, representing Ekara, Kubo Federal Constituency of Kaduna State, and my humble self, Ikenga Ugochinye, representing Idato North, Idato South Federal Constituency, and DG of the PDP governorship campaign in Imo State. Let me start this briefing by appreciating the Nigerian judiciary for the landmark judgment the Court of Appeal delivered in Lagos in a sitting presided by Justice Guber and Justice Peter Afem and Justice Aisha Menoma, which reaffirmed the landmark victory that was secured at the election. And I also appreciate the President of the Court of Appeal for constituting a panel of justices who has the courage and the capacity to do justice to our case. And it's also important to appreciate the INEC staffs and security agencies who worked diligently on that election day to ensure that our election results were transmitted and our victory was also declared as required by the law. And let me also, before we start, express our solidarity and support to the Nigerian Labour Congress over the unfortunate incident which nearly led to the killing of the president of the country's Labour Congress. And it's important that from our intelligence, that attack on Comrade Ajero was aimed at pitching President Bola Ahmed Tinubu against Nigerian workers. Those who did that in Owerri wanted to create a distraction that will pitch workers against the federal government. And it's so unfortunate that up till now, the ringleader of those attackers have not been arrested. And the solidarity with NLC on the decisions that are taken over this attack. Ladies and gentlemen, as we man this podium, we are fully aware that there is no story about our dear Imo State you already do not know. There is no aspect of misgovernance I will talk about you have not personally experienced. Imo to us is an open book, and this book we must not allow them to shut down without rewriting all the wrongs and bad narrative for which our dear state is now known. The last few years in Imo State have been years of gloom, pain, and ruthless leadership. No strata of the society, no sector, no community, and absolutely no person in Imo State has been spared of the horrible dark side of a stolen mandate. Whether you are backing the government or against the government, whether you are sitting on the fence or just sitting in your house, whether you are just minding your business or just asking innocent questions, whether you are employed or unemployed, rich or poor, of the political class or from the artisan community, we all are victims of this government in Imo State that we never elected. So I stand before you today with my brothers in the PDP with a sense of purpose as Imo embarks on another journey of transition. As you know, our great party have chosen Senator Samuel Anyanwu and his deputy, Honorable Jones Onyeriri, as the flag bearers for the November 11th governorship election in Imo State. Likewise, Senator Dino Melaya for Kogi and Governor Diri for Bayelsa. It is not just a mandate by the party, but a mandate by the people of Imo to recover Imo from the brinks. So I want you to understand the weight of this moment and the gravity of the task at hand. These and many other considerations have shaped our decision in recent time. Consider the current state of our beloved Imo. It languishes in darkness. It aches, shudders in despair. We have endured the loss of our peace, our security, and even our loved ones. Now they seek to extend this suffering for another 4 years. We cannot renew a mandate that in the first place we did not give. They have turned our state into a den of robbers, a playground for corruption, impunity, and violence, and have ravaged and destroyed our institutions and our businesses and our communities. Take a look at Imo today. We have lost our right to free speech. We have lost our right to freedom. We have lost our right to even fair politicking. Go around Owerri. Only that of the ruling government in Owerri that have campaign billboards standing in Owerri. Those of other candidates have either been pulled down or have been barred from erecting one. Where has that happened before? And he thinks that if he shuts down a fair contest, he will win. He will need to do much more to stop Imo people. Our nightlife is gone, a shadow of his former self. The business traffic into Owerri on weekends have fizzled out. Businesses are packed up and left Imo. There is a huge drop in commerce because Imo is now a playground for political iberiberism. If you are in doubt, go to Oriomoma, even in the governor's village, and ask them. Go to International Market Olo and ask them. Go to Oriokporo Market and ask them. Even Ekembudi feels the impact. Go to Ekaron. Majority of the customers that come from outside Imo State are too scared to return until they are genuine guarantee of their safety. I did not mention markets in Okigwe because the realities in some of these communities in Okigwe is now horrifying. In some communities, people go to bed afraid and wake up uncertain how they will survive the next day. There is this spell of darkness and cloud of uncertainty in Imo we cannot wish away. What about the destruction of lives and properties, the closure of businesses, and the atmosphere of fear and terror in our dear state? I say this because I was a victim of their terror attack on the 23rd of December 2022. My convoy was attacked by hooded men, led by one of their men. On the 14th of January, they brought full-scale war to my country home in Akokwa, in Ida Atonot. They came with explosive, driven all the way from the capital city of Owerri, and all manner of firearms. They killed my uncle and some of our kinsmen. I was the target, but God reminded them that they are mere mortals and not God. Imo needs help, and he needs help urgently. Our dear state is sitting on a quicksand and sinking by the day. No state can thrive or survive under an atmosphere of impunity and terror. Widespread extortion, arbitrary arrests, forced disappearances, framing of political opponents, and wanton looting of our commonwealth. Apparently, it now seems safer to live in Boronu or Gaza than to live in Imo under Uzodimma. In Imo, there is no better way to say it. Darkness looms large in our dear state, and it's time to rise up and take our homeland from these plunderers. It is not about the party you belong to or the zone you come from, but a battle to salvage what is left of our plundered heritage and reclaim our dear state from the brink of collapse and anarchy. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of convenience and comfort, but where he stands at times of challenges and controversies, as said by Martin Luther King Jr. In view of the urgent task to save Imo from the brink of collapse and to save the lives of our people, I will be actively participating in the Saturday election and will be voting for the candidates of the PDP, my own party, Senator Samuel Anyanwu Sandadi, for the governorship seat of Imo State, and Right Honorable James Onyoriri as his deputy governorship candidate. I have directed all those who believe in my leadership, especially in Ida North and South and greater part of Imo State, and our strong movement, the Grassroots Development Forum, the GDF, who I have talked to yesterday and who will be meeting today. My unquenchable commitment for democracy, justice, and people's interests is the reason I'm seeking your support to mobilize your household, supporters, and vote for PDP. Vote for Senator Samuel Anyanwu Sandadi. Look out for the great umbrella sign and thumbprint to end the nightmares we are currently going through daily. The umbrella sign, the PDP logo. In case if you don't know it, show them. This is where you are going to vote on Saturday. This is where you're going to vote on Saturday. This decision is born out of the urgent need to save Imo and the fact that in challenging moments where lives of the people are in danger, we all must have the boldness to put our individual political differences aside to save the common interests of our people before they completely destroy our people. This election is important in determining our desire to have decency over rascality. Let me also urge my fellow party members that are aggrieved. I have one question. In whose interest will the continued stay in power of the regime today serve? If you don't like Senator Samuel Anyanwu and our candidates, and you don't like Senator Tan of Labour Party or General Gunenwu of Accord of AA Party or Ijogu To be honest, don't you think you are indirectly or directly working and aiding Hope Uzodinma to remain in office while saying that you are aggrieved? Think about the lives of people that are being lost every day and place it alongside your grievances and ask yourself, does it worth it? Let us remember our people that are in pain daily, those still missing, those in hospital, like our own brother Ajero, NLC president, whose quest for governance and workers' welfare nearly sent him to grave in the hands of the sons of the Imo emperor. Every hour they stay in power is pain and destruction, and we can end that pain on Saturday if we all work together despite our differences and party affiliation. Let's mobilize, let's vote, let's wait behind at the polling unit, let's defend it, let's ensure as a matter of fact that announcement and upload from polling units is done. Under no circumstances would that not be done. You must ensure that there is announcement and upload at the polling unit, and Imo will be free again. Come this Saturday election, I urge our party members in Imo, in Kogi State, in Bayelsa, to be vigilant and guide with their last breath the operation mobilize early to polling units, monitor and verify election material distribution, vote and wait behind until announcement and mandatory transmission of results are completed at the polling unit level. Verify and monitor the movement and distribution of this material. Go early to the polling units with your family and friends. Vote against them, even if they offer you money. Wait behind after voting. I'm repeating because it's very important. Ensure immediate announcement after voting and mandatory transmission of the results. Video the announcement and upload immediately and share it, including the pictures of the result that must be pasted on the wall before any annex staff moves out from the polling unit. Do not, and I repeat, do not allow the annex staff to leave the polling unit without announcing and also transmitting the results. Do not allow this ad hoc staff tell you he or she needs to get to the ward or LUGA collection center before transmitting. If we allow that, the result will be changed. Do not listen to the story that, oh, I have a wrong password. Let INEC ensure their ad hoc staff are given the right password, as nobody will be allowed to depart from the polling unit without fulfilling the constitutional process or completing election at the polling unit and transmitting that result. If there is no network, let them use the offline mode to still send the result. And also go with internet service so that you can share hotspot with them to aid the transmission. On no human account should transmission not be completed in your polling unit before that result move. If it's not transmitted, you have failed. This election can only be won or lost at what we do or fail to do at the polling unit. They have made plans to obstruct transmission or frustrate it, and your duty is to ensure announcement and transmission are carried out at the polling unit. So mobilize all your people, women, men, and your able-bodied sons to keep vigil with one agenda. And I repeat, one agenda across Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. Announce and transmit at the polling unit before any INEC staff can leave the place. Once you transmit across Imo before 6 p.m., the winner will be known. And those waiting to change result at LUGA or Ward Collection Center will be wasting their time and igniting crises that can consume them. These men of weak electoral strength, but which penchant for bloody electoral iniquity, are already panicking. Hence the intimidation, bribery, and endless attempt to compromise the electoral space. Some have even used taxpayers' money to book all hotel rooms in their state so that they can flood the place with thug, their ICT rigging experts, and chase away observers. But fear not. The hotel room of the people on Saturday is the polling unit, where you have the power to deal a fatal electoral blow to them. Go to Izombe today. From October 2021 to this morning, no fewer than 200 homes have been burned down. I know of a journalist in Izombe whose family house was also razed. Is he a criminal? Agu community is deserted as we speak. Arondizor community is also deserted. It is not the first time or second or third time they have tried to flee their community. Yet the state used the same resources they use to fight law-abiding citizens and refuse to protect these communities. Do I need to mention in Hitu Boma? The number of unreported armed attack and incident of kidnapping going on in that area is so alarming that it should get the attention of any humane and sympathetic leader. They, like many other communities across the three-state zone in Imo State, have simply been abandoned to their fate by a government that has failed in its obligation to the people, which is safety of lives and property. Today, apart from the 3 major roads entering Imo from Olo to Owerri, from Okigwe, from Owerri, built at very expensive cost that can even do 15 of such roads. There is no other project existing in Imo State in the last 3 years. The local government is not functioning. Their location is nowhere to be found. In Idato, where I come from, like every other part of Imo, the road have cut. You can't even enter Idato. You have to follow other states in the country to enter Idato, and nothing have been done. So, considering the catastrophe the regime in Imo represents, the initial political setback I suffered during the said primary mean nothing when placed side by side with what Imo people have endured in the hands of this regime. In the light of this, it became incumbent on me to forgive and set aside personal differences for the greater good of our dear state. It was Benjamin Franklin who said, after the Treaty of Paris and resolution of the British and American War on 27 July 1783, in his letter to Sir Joseph Banks, he said, there is never a good war or a bad peace. The right heart exceeds all. My heart is good and has exceeded all wrongs. It is time to let go of our personal differences for the collective good. When darkness looms large, as it is the case today in our dear state, then we must set aside our differences, unite and fight for it. So all those text messages and voice notes about my body language and political choice ahead of November 11 should stop forthwith. Imo comes first, and this is where I stand, and this is where I differ with others. I have therefore resolved, like I said before, after due consultation with our people, our leaders, our political associate, the GDF family, the irrepressible people of Idato Nation, the good and long-suffering people of Imo State, and indeed, all of us of good governance and humanity, to fully, and I repeat, to fully support our party, the PDP, and our governorship candidate, Senator Samuel Anyanwu Sandadi, and his deputy, Honorable Jones Onyeriri, to contribute my quota in the effort to put an end to the ugly reign of pain, destruction, and looting in Imo State. I have often asked myself, what if I had died in the hands of those state-backed assassins recruited from the force? The vehicle that conveyed the bomb that detonated in my premises came all the way from Owerri, passing all the checkpoints. That was possible because the assassins were escorted by somebody into my domain. When Uzodinma lost it all was when he thought I was going to die and came on TV to lie against me and the dead and the living, that I brought the attack on myself. But unfortunately, I want to tell him I did not die, I'm alive. And I'll continue to do that responsibility that God Almighty gave to me. That's the same reason I wanted to be a Reverend Father. That is what I will continue to do as a political leader. Even in the affairs of men, God still rules, not governors. I might have survived by the will of God and had the resources to expose them. But many other people in Imo did not survive such attack. Many did not survive their frame up. Many are suffering for crimes they did not commit, while a few others who survive either have no choice to demand for justice or are too terrified to tell their story. It is said that when a snake bites your neighbor, you too are in danger. This is true because it means there is a snake in the neighborhood. And if we don't join hands to get rid of it, you may be the next victim. In Imo, there is a political snake in our neighborhood. Those who see evil and refuse to speak up will one day be victims of the things they promoted in silence. My experience gave me an insight into what Imo people are going through. I went through a journey of blood, bombing, beheading, and all that. Imagine 28 criminal charges fabricated against one person by state actors, 3 close shaves with deaths by assassins, but God saved me all. Though some of our kinsmen and comrades were murdered and their murderers shielded. And that is why I asked myself, should I continue to live in fear, or should I continue not to speak out just because somebody somewhere wants to be re-elected? I owe society a duty to continue to advocate what will be beneficiary to society, having been saved by God Almighty. So I asked myself, should I distance myself from this call to fight for our people's freedom because of my comfort? God forbid. What if the killers has returned to Owerri with my head as they kept on shouting and threatening on arrival outside my gate just before butchering my dear uncle, whose body is still in the mortuary as I speak? Yes, he is still in the morgue because I have not even allowed us the peace to even bury our dead. So this is not just politics. It is a spiritual commitment for me and a promise I made to God that if he saved me from that bloody attack, I will never stop fighting for justice and for what I know to be right, regardless of the and danger. I am that cause and I will not mislead you. Drop anything that divides us. Forgive one another. Let's go. Be courageous. Shave personal interest for collective good. for darkness is upon all of us. Join hands, join hands. Our land is under siege. Tell your mothers, tell your fathers, advise your daughters, and our sons who are still alive to come out and vote and wait behind until that result is transmitted. Encourage and bring others to vote and defend it. Go with your torchlight. Go with everything. Take their money if they bring it, and still punish them with your vote for the pain of the last 4 years. I have decided to bury my political differences with everyone in Imo, to join the struggle to redeem Imo and let the world and history know that we all didn't succumb to political intimidation. We are all witnesses to how men of little morals and no honor saw the idea of Imo Charter of Equity, and like everything they do, rigged it into Charter of Iniquity. If they had any shred of conscience, they would have considered the weighty fact that Olu had been to the Douglas House for the nearly 24 years since 1999, while Owerri zone is yet to last up to 2 years in government house. The nearest to Olu is Okigwe, which has enjoyed just 4 years in power since 1999. Yet, a bunch of political opportunities gathered and initiated a Charter of Equity for which they allocated another 4 years to Olu, or better put, to Uzodimma. The irony is that we have seen some Owerri people whose mandate is being stolen, clapping and cheering Uzodimma's new Charter of Iniquity. The political implication is that if Owerri zone fails to recover their mandate from the usurpers or Okigwe, they would have effectively forfeited the privileges of zoning and thrown the contest open for all comers from the senatorial zone going forward. To put it in a broader perspective, if Owerri and Okigwe people allow these men whose stomach is their God to lead their argument, dictate their reasoning, insult their sensibility, then they have lost the sympathy of decent men and rendered their agitation for power sheet of no effect. First, you must agree that Uzodimma is incompetent to lead a state like Imo. And secondly, if Owerri genuinely desires power shift, then PDP is a party to vote. Samuel Anyanwu is a candidate to vote. But if they willfully choose to vote for an incompetent candidate from Olu, then people will definitely withdraw their sympathy, including me, and conclude that Owerri is not interested in power shifting to their zone. Owerri zone should ordinarily distance themselves from Uzodimma and his Charter of Iniquity on the grounds of his incompetence and such evident decadence that now threatens decent society. We all know we are also not on our way. We are gradually becoming a people to whom anything is acceptable just for a piece of bread. But we must rise and stop this ugly shift. It is time for men of conscience to take a stand and clean up our society, starting from ridding it of the moral and societal baggage the people in Imo today represent. I have a duty, not just as the DG of this campaign, but as the messenger of the people, to stand still till the end. The constant threat of assassination and other litany of threats cannot stop this march. Rather, it strengthens and reminds me of the woeful, decadent, barbaric, and lawless state of our dear state. I therefore call on Imo people to ignore their threat and their gra-gra. They brought it to Idato. He boasted that he would take Idato and crush us, and deployed his assets. But from outside Imo, we defeated Uzodimma and his candidate, who just won 1 polling unit, 1 out of 346. That is one of the great heroic elections in Nigerian history. From outside the election venue, from outside Imo, the opponent still went on with 1 polling unit out of 346. He was humiliated by the power of God and the will of the people. Learn from the Idato experience. Learn from the courage. Me and my people in Idato exhibited. Everybody in Imo, everybody in Kogi, everybody in Bayelsa. You can do it. It was a story of courage forged around the individuality of the people who worked as leaders themselves, manned their areas, and defended their land from evil. They owned the project, defied their threat, and elected me even in my absence. Indeed, posterity will be kind to Idato. We call on INEC to be very careful with the staff they will be posting for the election. The rumors of plans to bypass the beavers, block transmission, upload false accreditation, and so on and so forth must not happen. Let the November Imo governorship election be free, fair, and credible. Let not toy with the people's sensibility and temperament. You may not like my face. I won't even beg you to like my face. You may also not like my style. I won't even beg you to like my style. Or my tone of voice. I won't even beg you to like the tone of my voice. But at least love yourself. So vote for your safety and well-being. Vote so that your old parents in the village will no longer have to run into the bush in the middle of the night. Vote for all the families rendered homeless for no crime of theirs. vote that your son that have just dada on the head, they will not stop him, open his phone, empty his account, kill him and dump him by the roadside. You are not voting for me. You are voting for yourself. Vote for all these young men whose source of livelihood were destroyed without compensation in a state that has one of the worst unemployment figures. Vote for the Imo state of your dream, where your children and children can live in peace, not in fear. You must understand that you are different from them. You labor and work very hard for your daily bread. You are not like those whose lives revolve around free government handouts and stomach infrastructure. People who can't go home because their people have rejected them while they play the endorsement game from hotel rooms in New Owerri and Ikenga. These are men who just want to feed and will tell the emperor anything just to feed. So continue your work, call your meetings, spread the word, tell them of the horrifying alternative of not voting right. Do all that is within your power to mobilize the people around you to vote. Ignore those who are endorsing in Owerri. They will come back to meet you at home after you would have mobilized your polling unit to action, and surely we will do our endorsement from the polling unit. Have nothing to fear. There are arrangements underway to neutralize your ultimate plan of using violence to hijack coalition. This is the people's campaign. As such, every man in Imo is the DG of his polling unit. So take charge starting from this moment. There is nothing to wait for. Start preaching. Continue to preach. Tell them that Imo will be safe again only when they turn out very early, vote, wait behind, and ensure the mandatory transmission of that result. Wait for no one. Do the legwork, mouth work, and let the biblical mustard seed spread out and bamboozle them. And while they are still trying to understand what is going on, give them the defeat they deserve by voting them down in all polling units. For us on election day, it will be like I have said before, operation. Then wait and monitor the transmission of results. But before then, verify the results very well, because you know the character of these men I'm talking about. Verify the beavers very well that is working from the LUJ before they start moving. Let one or two polling units not miss, because that is the one they will use to upload that fake accreditation. Verify and check all materials before commencement of voting. Video the announcement of results, get the copies of the result. We do not need to remind you to guide your votes and materials and follow it directly throughout collection. Intimidation will come, but stand firm. Be bold, mobilize your youth and resist any intimidation. For those who are going to be sharing money, you can form yourself into civilian task force, grab them and deliver them to the nearest police station, because under the law, you have powers to do so, because sharing of money at polling unit is commission of crime. Nobody is more Imo than you are. Imo belongs to all of us, so prepare for it. The right thing must be done. These people, as you already know, are political cowards and have never won an election without rigging or intimidation. We beat them hands down like children in Idato. We must all be proud of that, and Imo must learn from this courage we have exhibited. No apologies about that. We can beat them again in Imo State. So stand firm, stand strong. Imo is now a hood joke among the Committee of State. Government institutions have now been reduced to playthings for the governor and his friends, which is why they want to impose a forced silence on the people using intimidation and their usual scare tactics. We are aware that a lot of people in Imo have been shut down by the regime in Imo because they are aware that the state chief executive has his bag loaded with trumped-up criminal, because they will be charged with trumped-up criminal charges prepared in advance. And if as much as consistently hold a divergent political opinion and interrogate their lies, then you run the risk of being slammed with one of their assorted criminal charges, and shortly after, they will unleash their militia squad on you. To our dear President and Commander-in-Chief, this is the first election to be conducted under your leadership as President. The world will be watching and waiting eagerly to evaluate this election and use it as an index of your preparedness to enforce institutional reforms and to ascertain if you allow the continued desecration of our security apparatus by desperate politicians in different states. We are begging the President, and we know that the President will help Imo people freely elect their leadership. Already, people are lobbying and running helter-skelter to see if they can get a blanket cover to once again compromise and use our security institutions against the people. If this is allowed, the backlash and widespread condemnation that will follow will rub off negatively on the new administration, and that is why we strongly believe the President will not be part of that. As a Nedeko chieftain and a man with a strong history of involvement in the Nigerian democratic process, we urge you, dear Mr. President, to categorically order and insist on a free, fair and credible conduct of election in Imo, Bayelsa and Kogi State come November 11, 2023. You have already said that, and we also want you to continue to reinforce that until Saturday. Like my father once told me, there are people in life, Mr. President, who are not worth risking your name for. You are aware of how Uzodinma became governor of Imo State. The image of Nigeria and its judiciary took a big hit and are still suffering for that indiscretion. And as such, my dear President, any action or inaction that may seek to reinforce such a person in power can only constitute bad publicity and an unwanted baggage to your young administration. Need I mention that the person in question lacks the consistency of character that will warrant our dear President to stake the image of his administration on a subject whose loyalty is still divided. Remember, Mr. President, I do not need to, but I will remind you now. Remember the sudden drafting of Ahmed Lawan to run for the APC presidential ticket. Did you do anything to Uzodinma? But that is the nature of Uzodinma, upon all that you have done for him. But he still drafted Ahmed Lawan to run for president. So remember the move to even lure Buhari to back Lawan. So remember the sudden swapping of delegate lists at APC presidential primary. I'm not against anybody supporting any candidate, but when a man goes to bring a particular candidate just to stop a party, it goes beyond, he has deeper interest because he may want to be a running mate. So remember the invisible, yet visible Asoro Kabada, work with them then. So Mr. President, except for providence, the intricate web of conspiracy weaving against you in the last APC primary would have sent you back to Bodilon, dejected and abandoned. But because of your political courage and capacity, you were able to neutralize the conspiracy of Uzodinma and Ahmed Lawan. So is this the person you will risk your young administration integrity? We know you will not do that. The president should therefore know, and they already know the character of the men in Imo, and be mindful of any association that could rub off negatively on this administration. Yet, yes, let the man carry his cross. Let Imo people decide his fate and pay him back for the disservice he has rendered. The president and his handlers cannot be unaware of the fact that no good can come from any two-faced opportunist who, in what would have been a national tragedy, could have become a vice president if their clandestine plot against the incumbent president had succeeded. Now, I'm not a member of APC, but I raise this issue for Mr. President to be reminded of the character of people who are in this contest. Now, these gate-crashers are trying to use the same presidency they antagonize to advance their selfish political interests under the guise of being party members, helping Imo to have a credible election that will produce a people's governor. We know that be a landmark achievement for your administration. An election devoid of armed intimidation or the use of security men to aid an electoral haste against the good people of Imo State will be a worthy legacy of long-term beneficial consequences that will indeed show that the renewed hope agenda is on the march. We also want to use this opportunity to seek the support of the DGDSS, NSA, Inspector General of Police, NSCDC, Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, and the Chief of Naval Staff towards a free, fair, and credible election in Imo State. We urge you not to fail the good people of Imo State and not to fail Nigerians, and not to fail Mr. President, who has given you people marching order to ensure a credible election. We urge you not to fail. So, my good people of Imo State, think about all you have been through. Think about an Imo where you are not afraid to speak what you know to be true. An Imo where you are not afraid of what the night might bring, where human life is valued and sacred. Think about the courage I exhibited in the face of this intimidation. I could have given up, but I have a duty to society. If I can do it, you can do it. There's nothing that was not done on human aid. Security report was even falsified, fabricated, that I'm sponsoring killings all over the country. Look at me. If I'm sponsoring killing, why don't you arrest me? And then suddenly people were doing all these things just to destroy an innocent young man. But I continue to have my faith in God, and I continue to seek protection of God as spelled out in Psalm 23, Psalm 35, and 37. And that is why I'm alive today. So let me use this opportunity to appeal to INEC and security agencies to know that some people are already compromising their local staff with the sole aim of ensuring vote suppression, obstruction of transmission of results, relocation of collection centers where other parties will not have access, especially in Imo, to enable the falsification of results and use of fake accreditation figures to produce magic results. All results must be announced at polling units. So warn your staff that our people will not allow any staff or any official who has any plan to frustrate polling unit announcement and upload and transmission of results in Imo State